All right, well, it looks like we are live, and I am happy to be here with y'all. So hopefully we can, hopefully y'all can hear me. Hopefully, I'll give it a few minutes here. Hopefully some of y'all will show up, say hi, and it's good to be back. It's good to be here. Hey, there's Tanya. Thank you, Tanya, for still being here. I know it's a few minutes late. So I have gotten, gosh, man, I've gotten a bunch of new equipment, new cables, new stuff to get my system going. So hopefully you're going to see things moving and streaming a lot faster now than before. Hopefully there won't be any issue. Hi, Tanya. How are you? Fifi LaFleur's in the house. Holly is in the house. Wendy is in the house. Well, hello, ladies. It's so good to be here with you. I'm so happy. I'm going to put the telephone number up so I could take some phone calls from you all. I'd love to get some phone calls tonight. It's good to see everybody. And finally, yippee. And we'll talk about some stuff that's coming up. And as always, let me go ahead and get my telephone number, though, up and ready for everybody to call in. Hi, Mary. How are you? Mark Hobbs. Hey, how you doing? It's good to see you all. Let me get the telephone number. Telephone number for you is right here. I'm going to say call on in. Call on in at any time. You're welcome to call on me at any time. Call on me at any time. You can I have no idea what I'm singing right there. Just call on your brother when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. How's that, Jennifer? I just might have a problem that you understand. What's up, Jude? Minnesota Jude is in the house. Call on in at any time. And hi, everybody. It is so good to see you. There you go. There's my hi. So I have my headset. I'm ready to take some phone calls. So whenever any of you would like to call in, please do. Do not hesitate. We will handle that. So thank you all for being here. Welcome to Royal We Live Chat. For those of you who are new to live chat, this is an opportunity just to talk about things that are going on. Talk about your situations. You can talk amongst yourselves in the group. You can listen to me jibber jabber. I typically just talk about the videos, the content, things that are coming up, things that are going on. Tomorrow will be a video uploaded on the Royal We channel about the ungratefulness of narcissistic people. And in the purpose of the video is just to help people be aware of just the danger, the problem with the ungrateful attitudes of narcissistic people, because their ungratefulness is a result of entitlement. So I separate the two. Then ultimately, if you're not careful in these types of relationships with narcissistic personalities, you can find yourself stuck and trapped, feeling guilty, feeling like you have to go along with what they say, and it can start to rob you of your freedoms. And all of it is can be managed if you first start to just notice that they're ungrateful when they have you over, when you're around. They're very ungracious. A lot of the times they can be, no doubt about it, they can be nice sometimes, especially in the beginning of the relationship, but over time they become very ungrateful. Even if they invite you over, they're very ungrateful of your time. They're very unappreciating of your time with them, right? It becomes more into the entitled category. Well, now that in their mind, it's like, I invited you over, so I'm entitled to treat you how I want to treat you. So that's what tomorrow's video is going to be. So be sure to check that out. It's going to be uploaded, published between 1 o'clock, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Oh, is that D? Oh my gosh. D, I am just beside myself. D, where have you been? Well, listen, everybody, for those of you who don't know D, D is a staple a cornerstone member of the Royal We. She's been here since the beginning, and she has had awesome opportunities elsewhere, and so she's been focusing on that. And here she is visiting tonight. Thank you so much, Dee. It's good to see you. It's good to see you here. Wow. Mary says here in freezing Arizona. Is Arizona freezing? Is it? Wow. I didn't know Arizona would be that cold. I thought it's still summertime. Here in the Midwest, it's still summertime. A little bit cooler today, but for the most part, it's been between 90 and 100 degrees. 90 and 100 degrees out. Hot. And what's really bad about the Midwest, those of you who live in the Midwest, you know this. Wow, it's 68, so it's dropping out there. What's really been, getting to me. Hi, Lucy Chin. Hi, Key. Lucy Chin, Key Chen. For a moment, I thought you might have been related, but then I see your names, the last names are spelled differently. Yeah, Arizona freezing is kind of weird, huh? Mark Hobbs said that too. Dry. Midwest has been like real moist. What do they call it? The dew point or whatever. It's been so hot, but it's been so much moisture in the air. It's almost hard to breathe when you walk outside. When it's hot, between 90 and 100 degrees, and it's also real moist, you just can't even breathe. That humidity. It's bad. It is bad. Lucy Chen said, "No, we are not related." I know. I figured you weren't. One is Chen. No, see, there's Chen right under you. See, you're even commenting at the same time. Maybe 5,000 years ago we were related. You never know. Maybe you could have been, and then somebody just misspelled one of the last names, and, who knows? It's good to have you both here. I like seeing your comments, one right after the other. Works out pretty good. Humid and hot. So what has been going on, everybody? I missed out because I have been having some technical issues. I think I shared some of that with you. I shared also some of it with Tanya, and it affected fellowship for the first time. Saturday morning, rather, I wasn't able to do Royal We Fellowship because of some internet issues, something to do with the cable. They've been doing some readjusting, so I missed out on that. This is the issue of doing things on social media, live and streaming and stuff like that, it's just part of it. You got to roll through those moments and then keep going, keep trucking on. Right on. So let's talk. Let's talk about some stuff. Everybody's here saying hi. Hello. So how's everybody doing as far as healing and understanding and dealing with narcissistic families and peoples and all that kind of stuff? Which, and by the way, while you're doing that, I want to do more with the live stream channel. So I think what I'm going to start doing is not only do the live stream Monday night, but I would like to do some other live things throughout the week. And I'm trying to figure out what exactly I can do. I could probably do some videos maybe with my phone, something, I don't know. But just throughout the day and just putting random thoughts up there live, I think that might be a good thing to do. I have been, Purple Queen is so glad she cut out her toxic family members. Good. Julie Tamalos says, I keep learning every day. Don't we all? Yes, indeed. That's what it's all about. All right. Well, who wants to call in? Call on in. Let's talk. Let's talk about some stuff. I put the number up there. Is it typical? Wendy says, is it typical to feel as if everyone I run into is a narcissist? Yes, it is absolutely typical. And the reason is because good amount of people you run into are narcissistically abusive people, right? Very typical. One of the things that, here we get a phone call, but Wendy, hang on to that question. You're live on the Royal We.
Hello, Kevin. calling. This is Dee.
D, what's going on, D?
Not a whole lot. I just finally got some time on a Monday night to call in. Say hello.
That is so awesome. I am so happy to hear from you. How have you been? How's everything been where you're at?
Well, it's been a little bit rough, but I'm in the right spot where God wants me to be, and things are happening. So it's all good. I'm doing what I like to do. I have a question for you.
A question for me.
How do you tell the difference between passive aggressive and a narcissist? Is there any particular thing that you can look for, or are they related?
Between passive aggressive and a narcissist? Well,
Yes.
passive aggressive can that's a tough one. A passive aggressive person, somebody who just uses it as joking, I guess you could say. You'll know in the way that they carry on joking. You know what I mean? So if someone's just using passive aggressiveness in a joking manner, and you call them out on it, and you say, "Hey, that wasn't that funny," you'll want to look for their response to that. That's what's going to tell you whether or
Okay.
not they're narcissistic or not. So if their response, if someone's being passive aggressive and throwing jabs at you, and you say that's not funny, and their response is something to the extent of, the typical stuff we hear. You're too sensitive, get over it, or I don't care what people think. I say whatever I want to say, and this
Right.
and that. Then you're dealing with a narcissistic person. If they're
Right.
like,
Right.
if they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I no, you're right. That wasn't cool. I'm sorry about that. Then you're dealing with somebody who's able to stop and think about what they're doing and is able to acknowledge and admit that they were out of line. So it's not really in the passive aggressiveness that you're gonna discover narcissistic abuse. It's not in people who joke around. It's not in people who make dumb comments. I have made really dumb comments before, and people have had to call me out. I'm sure we all do. But
Okay.
it's in the response to when you're called out. It's in how you are able to say, okay, oh look, I didn't mean to offend you. You know what I mean? Um, it's in that. You're gonna look for the abusive characteristics in people's response. Are they
Okay.
are they able and willing to hear you out? Are they able to have a rational conversation? Um, or do they get mad and offended when you call them out, or whatever? That's where you're gonna find it
Or
out.
they just yeah, or they just blow you off like, hey, that was no big deal. Why are you so sensitive?
Or they blow you off completely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm dealing with a lot of passive aggressive people here, but the job that I have takes I'm taking care of a lot of animals and gardening, and I get public tours a lot, and I run into some very interesting people here.
Yeah.
And my experience helping with the Royal We live chat has been invaluable to being able to deal with people now.
Oh,
And
that's so
sometimes I
good.
can push them a little further, and sometimes I'm like, no, I'm not even going down that road. So it depends on how you can read people.
Yes.
And it's been very helpful that I had the experience on the Royal Chat talking with people so that I can see that now. And it's
Yes.
helped me avoid some bad relationships and maybe see some potential for some good ones. So,
That's
you guys
great.
are out there and you're trying to think, oh, I'm not learning anything. Yeah, you are. You're learning something.
Yes. That's great. That's great.
All righty. Well, I just want to call in and say hello. I hadn't forgotten you guys. I just rarely get a Monday night off.
Oh, it's so good to hear from you. It is so good to hear. And I've thought about you quite a bit. I really have. And I
Oh,
and
thank
I
you.
well, and I have intended to call you as well. Just not on live chat, just to call you just to see how you're doing. It's the thought has
Right,
crossed my mind, but I'm so glad that you're here and you
right.
called. Thank you.
You'll have a hard time catching me, Kevin.
You're busy, huh? That's
Yeah,
good.
I'm working 12-hour days, 6 days a week. So, yeah, it's pretty difficult to get me very much.
All right. Well, it's good talking with you, D. I'm going to take another phone call. Oh,
All right. Y'all take care.
all righty. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, I was going to take another phone call. Here, I'll get it back up here. We have another phone call from 619. Hopefully I can just missed it. If that was you, you can call back or I'll call you. Oh, there it is. Hello, you're live on the Royal We.
Just missed it. That was you. You can call back, or I'll call you.
There you are.
There it is.
There I am.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, you're on the Royal We.
Hi.
This is Wendy.
Hi, Wendy. How are you?
Hi. Finally.
Can you turn the
Hi.
can you turn the
Yeah,
computer down?
Got it. I just wanted to tell you, you basically saved a life. Or many.
Changed a life. Thank you.
No, saved. We're in the change process.
Saved a life.
The change is difficult. But what I brought up and I wanted to see from a biblical standpoint is about the sins of the father being passed on to the generations for 4 generations. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have start looking at the narcissists in my family and realized that the fathers have created such a horrible situation for the girls in our family. Almost all of us have lost a child. It's very bizarre, to death or to drugs. So I'm just wondering where, if it is within the Bible, that it talks about generational sin.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's just bizarre. Like what I just went through with my Mr. Narky.
Right.
Right. No,
Yeah.
Are you getting the reverb that I am or no?
No, I'm not. It's
okay.
It could be because of your computer if it's not all the way down.
It's my geriatric cell phone company.
It could be that too. Yeah.
But what I just went through with my ex-narky, after he put me through hell for almost a year, when I decided I was going to move out, a week later, his grandson died of a drug overdose. And then I start looking at the other narcissists in my family.
Right.
My father was the greatest narcissist, and my sister lost a son to drug overdose, and I lost my daughter.
Okay.
Not to drug overdose, but to, she's betrothed to a Muslim man, and it's a little scary for me.
Okay.
And then my cousin, my uncle's another rich narcissist, and my 2 cousins lost their 2 kids.
Okay.
So I'm like seeing there's a pattern of 3 narcissists that I'm familiar with have lost their grandchildren. Very silly. I mean, very bizarre. Coincidence?
You know, that's a tough one. I mean, I wouldn't know exactly how to answer that. I know that, you know, the whole idea of generational curses and things of that sort, and I've talked about this in the past. They can be real, but
right.
the generational curse is only as real as people these days stay attached to that family. So when you separate yourself from a toxic family, you sever the ties with that generational curse. The generational curse is in the attachment to the family. Do you hear what I'm saying? So
yeah, I'm free and clear of the curse.
Yeah, if you never escape the family, you never escape that curse, right? The curse is basically, if you will, it's surrounding yourself with that people. It's continuing in that surroundings, right? So
okay.
Another way to look at this is, you know, if we look at the Old Testament, at the very beginning of the story of Abraham, right? God called Abraham out of his family, out of the whole city,
right.
the town of Ur, right? He said, come out of there, leave everything, leave your father, leave your mother, leave your friends, don't bring anything with you, and follow me, which is harsh, right? But that's the only way. And Abraham still didn't quite listen to God because he brought his nephew Lot. And so later on down the road, God wasn't able to do everything until, you know, Lot had to be separated, you know, and Abraham, because even that caused issues. So when you talk about generational curses, understand that you can absolutely break them, but you need to be pulled out of the entire environment. You cut loose, because the curse is your brain's bondage to the family, to the celebrations that they do, to the holidays that they do, to everything. That's where the curses exist. And as long as you keep walking in that and associating with that, you're going to feel that oppression, if you will. You're going to live under that curse. So if you're the black sheep of the family, for example, the black sheep of a family is the curse. That's a curse.
I am.
Okay. And guess what? You're only the black sheep of a family when you're in that family.
And I left 15 years ago.
So you leave 15 years ago and you have nothing to do with that family. Guess what? You're no longer the black sheep.
So
because
then why
you're no
did
longer associated with the family. So
right, but
yeah.
But why did this narcissistic relationship? It seems like so I've gone through whole life, almost every long-term relationship I've had, and some as long as 6-7 years have been with a narcissist.
Right. Almost every relationship you've had.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is somebody else asked this question in the chat, and I'm glad you brought that up. And the question on the chat that I was getting ready to answer is, why does it seem like everybody's narcissists? So, and from my experience, my understanding now is that, and I put a couple of videos touching on this, but it's a very difficult message and people aren't going to like it. Not even you, not even me. But the way I'm going to give you a different way to look at this. We are all narcissistic. I'm going to start there. Okay. Got it. But in understanding that we're all narcissistic, imagine with me that it's a spectrum. Okay.
Right.
And the best illustration that I have for it happens to be biblical. Okay. And the biblical illustration is that of Cain and Abel. And the reason I bring this up is because those are the first two humans born on this earth, according to the Bible. And what we see in one of them is one of them represents murder and death and complete unrighteousness, evil. That's Cain.
Right.
Abel represents what God finds acceptable and what's good. Okay? And I believe that these are the two now polar ends that we have defined of what good and what evil is. And I believe the spectrum that we all live on exists in between these two guys. There's no further evil past killing and murdering people. No matter who you're killing and murdering, that's the extent of evil. That doesn't get beyond that, right? And we don't know to the extent of, how good things get past being accepted by God, right? That's the good. And so the reason I'm saying all this is because our challenge in this life, our burden in this life, is to accept that everybody's on this spectrum somewhere, and I believe it's in equal amounts, just as day and night. And our burden is to navigate and to understand these principles and to carefully select relationships. Narcissistic abuse happens in our life as a result of, a lot of times we kind of get suckered into. They're good salespeople, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? And so many of us that fall into narcissistic abuse, and I'm not talking about being born into the family, but I'm talking about people you meet on the outside. Well, you might as well say that you bought some snake oil from a con artist, right? It's kind of the same thing. They sold a really good game. And so what that means is that the burden is on us to see past what people are trying to sell. When we have relationships, we have to see past their cuteness, and we have to see past their attraction to us, because they can come on hot and heavy, and we have to see what they're starting to intend to do. What's going on?
Okay.
I met this person, and 3 weeks he's trying to get in my pants. What the heck is that all about? You know what I mean? And so we start to see these red flags. Well, this is moving fast. And then we bring it up. That's moving fast. And the person says, oh, well, come on. Are you kidding me? We've been dating for 3 weeks. You think this is fast? You're just an old hiss, and you're not going to go anywhere in life, right? Okay, so right away, okay, that is someone who exists over here on the spectrum. Or you're out, and then you see that they're talking negatively about people, very negatively. You're trying to have a good dinner, and you notice the person's looking over at Sally Sue and the table across the way saying, wow, well, look at her. How does she even fit in that dress and this and that? And here's the thing.
Mr. Narky.
Well, listen, I've had these people in my family, and it took me, and there were times where I just brushed that stuff off, and I'm like, that's my uncle, that's my aunt, she's just, but as I look back now, I realize, but that's it. That's the personality, that's the personality. You have to understand that. That's not a person like you. That's nothing I would be. I would never, I wouldn't talk like that about people. And I think it took me all this time to realize that I don't have any business really associating with that. not even if it's an aunt, not even if it's my grandma. And, but it takes us a long time to get to that point and realize, oh my gosh, that's who that person is. How sad. And
Okay.
yeah,
So with the realization that, okay, now I understand narcissism. This is the first time in my life I actually identified and understand it. And on the way out, I presented it to Mr. Narky, and he turned it around. He had more information about narcissism than I did and started trying to tell me that I was the narcissist.
yeah. Yes, they will.
Is that the typical
Yes, they will.
reaction?
That is
unbelievable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's one of the things that, and I think myself and other narcissistic channels people talk about, and I've heard it mentioned, is that with the ability to have this information out there, oh yeah, narcissistic people are going to grab onto that information and they're going to use it against people. And so how do you know when you're dealing with somebody who is talking about even narcissism, right? How do you know? How do you know what you're dealing with? And I think it comes in their ability to shut up long enough to hear you out, right? And to listen and to have a mutually engaging conversation. That's what I've discovered happens. And I've talked with people who come across as knowing more about narcissism. And you can't even get a word in with some of these people. Not even a word. And if you do, it's, no, that's wrong. It's this. And then you start getting into where they use a lot of word salad, we call it. And oftentimes they'll even say something that you just said. And they'll say no just to say no, because narcissistic people have to oppose you in something. And then they'll repeat what you said, but using a different word. And that's called, it's like the old saying, you can say the sky's blue and a narcissist will say, no, you're wrong. It's turquoise.
Oh, I've said that to him repeatedly.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the kind of thing that I just is baffling my brain because of the patterns are so similar through so many people. How does the brain actually process narcissism in such a similar way is baffling to me.
Oh, you mean how they all act a similar way?
Yeah, they all have the same, like when you talk about the love bombing that happened, the devaluation happened, the discard, the Hoover, the whole, and I found something from 9 years ago that, I thought this was all new study and new release, and it's not. This is traditional diagnoses and patterns.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. It
just amazes me.
It is. It's wild. And it's like a book. But here's the other interesting part is even knowing this doesn't make it easier to deal with these people. You can know, listen, I can know all this. I talk about it. But when I come face to face with a narcissistic person, even I know my limits, where I have to humble myself down, bow out of the situation, bow out of the conversation. Because when you deal with these personality types, when they get into their I don't give an F about anything, narcissistic rage attitude, because you're not agreeing with them, right? Things can get out of hand. Things can get dicey. Things can go where you don't want them to go. Things can start to break out in fights. And this is where it gets scary because narcissistic people don't care. This is one of the ways you know a narcissistic person. They will take it to that extent and that degree because they genuinely, don't care. Their ego, when they fear the loss of the ego, they will suddenly forget the possibility of going to jail, of whatever fight or whatever. It no longer matters because that's in a narcissistic person's life. It's their fight or flight response is what's happening. When you trigger narcissistic rage, you're triggering their fight or flight response. And because what's being threatened is their ego. When you challenge them. And if their ego goes, they have nothing else. Whereas, people who don't live that attached to their ego, we sense, okay, this is getting hot and this is getting really weird. We don't feel like it's a life or death situation. We understand that it's actually just a stupid, petty argument. And so We have to be the ones, unfortunately, to humble ourselves down and say that this is stupid. Why go
Right.
to the extent of hurting somebody because we're having a disagreement on the color of the frickin' sky, which is equivalent to what the arguments usually are.
Petty.
It makes zero sense. Yet with narcissistic people and these abusive types, it often gets people end up fighting, fist fighting, throwing glasses, throwing pots, throwing pans. Police are called. Domestic
Yep.
domestic violence breaks out. Police have to show up. Neighbors are listening in, all because somebody said no, somebody didn't like it, and then they just going back and forth. And so, you
And
know,
you keep saying, why are you doing this? When you say, why are you doing this, they do it more,
they get
bigger.
more angry. That's right. And
They
that's,
do it bigger.
yes, that is how you
I
know.
went from the fire pan into the flame with a landlord who I recognized her narcissistic behavior after being here 6 weeks. And I did the no contact, and it's working.
That's it. That's the only thing you can do when you start to see these things. Because like you said, when you're engaging with narcissistic people, even when you start to say, why are you doing this? Why are you getting so upset? Why are you have to understand that to these personalities, that's more of an attack. You're further digging their ego. Because what you're saying is, why are you doing this? Why are you acting like this? What you're saying, what that's essentially saying is, you're not good. You're not being good. You're bad. It's like a parent. It's like the parent standing over that 6-year-old child, shaking the finger at him. Why are you doing this? Why did you do that? And narcissistic people who suffer from arrested development, they start lashing out like that 6-year-old. I didn't do anything. You're mean. Blah. And that's what they do.
Denial.
Denial. Yep. And that's it. And so the best thing to do before it gets too crazy is just to humble yourself. I've had to humble and say, all right, whatever, I'm out, and walk away.
But I think the hardest thing to understand is that these are professed Christians that I'm dealing with.
It doesn't matter who
my
it is.
ex-narc's daughter is married to a pastor and has a big church. And when I went to talk to them, I became the problem. And it just blows my mind that these are Christians and they're trying to walk in their Christian way.
Yes. Well,
yet they enable and accept abuse of a woman. I just don't understand.
Well, what blows my mind is that the church allows that, and that's really the problem. Is that these people exist, but the church is modern Western. When I say the church, I mean modern Western Christianity has, with I believe good intentions, has opened the doors for people who are in pain and who are suffering in hopes that they heal. But in doing that, they've invited the door or they've invited any psychopath, sociopath, and crazy person in the church, hoping that they change, but not realizing that they're not, and they're just filling the pews, causing all kinds of trouble in people's lives. And the church doesn't want to risk throwing people out anymore because it doesn't do anything good for their pockets, I guess. Yeah.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Coming back to the sins of the grandfather and the loss of the pastor and the daughter's son to drugs, it just blows my mind that these people don't understand that I want to call it karma, that how you treat other people the way you want to be treated.
That's it.
Yeah. And it's just not happening. You opened my eyes to an awful lot of the fake futuring in the Christian religion.
Yeah.
Religion as opposed to the spirituality. But I appreciate your teachings. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for calling in. Appreciate you.
Sure. Take care. Be well.
Thank you. Bye. And Tanya, thank you for your wonderful, amazing, supportive donation. I appreciate that every time. I appreciate that. I'm going to see. I did get I don't know if that's the same person that just called in. Let me see. Looks like I got a text message or a regular message. Let me see here. I'll read it. No. No. Never mind. Well, never mind. Well, listen, telephone line is open. You're welcome to call in. Hope that you're getting some valuable insights from the phone conversations. I know I enjoy talking with you all on the phone. I truly, truly, truly enjoy it. It's good to hear from you. It's good to hear your voices. It's good to chitter chat about situations, about these personalities. And I hope I answered that somebody else's question in there too about why we run in, why it seems like you run into narcissists on a regular basis. That's because they're everywhere. It's not some small thing, right? I know that there's some information out there that, a lot of and other YouTubers that say, well, narcissists. Typically, this is what I'm going to share with you what I've heard, right? You are live on the Royal We. Do you mind hanging on 1 second?
Oh, no problem at all.
All right, I'm going to finish a thought here, and then we'll chat.
Absolutely.
I have heard, so when it comes to the numbers out there of narcissistic personalities, and I've heard all kinds of weird things from channels, something like that. Well, it's 4% of society, and 3 3/3 of that are men. They're the narcissistic ones, and then a small fractional 25% are narcissistic women's, and that's what it is. And I just look at that stuff now as just being nonsense. The reality is that I would say half of the population is no doubt narcissistic to some extent. And talking about it, abusive, and half would be men and half would be women. I think it's equal across the board. I believe that. And I believe that you see it in different ways. It's not always the same. I would no doubt agree that narcissistically abusive men are probably physically more hostile and violent, but there are women who are in fact hostile and aggressively violent and throwing things, pots and pans and knives and glasses and whatever they can get their hands on. And the other thing, too, that they see typically with women is that they tend to be very verbally abusive towards men who don't know how to handle that and who end up just cowering away because women will push them to the point where they almost like want to make the guy hit her or whatever, and they can't do it. And so the guy just buckles under that pressure because he doesn't want to go there. And that's very abusive. And then also another tactic that is more common with women is the smear campaigning, the gossiping, that type of stuff. It happens in offices all the time. So when you take all that into consideration, which by the way, it's all abuse. It is abuse. Doesn't matter who's doing it, women or men. The gossiping, the smear campaigning, the character assassination, all forms of abuse, which means that, yeah, it's equal across the board between men and women. Equal. Anyway, sorry about putting you on hold. I heard you sighing, and so it sounds to me like you probably got some insights or some questions. Thanks for calling in. Where are you calling from?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's funny how you mentioned how women would abuse in those scenarios. Other crazy stories I hear is that, the woman narcissist would, pretty much create all the drama and stuff, throw things, kind of do a domestic violence dispute. And when the police get called, she gives the police a story saying that she got attacked or the guy's abusive, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. Perfect example.
Man,
perfect example of a celebrity situation where this happened would be Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. And I'm thinking about doing a little bit of reaction video just on some of the things that we heard in that case. But, Johnny Depp has had people come to his defense saying the guy just couldn't hurt a fly. He is one of the most chill actors, apparently. And Amber Heard came in, and all of a sudden, fights are breaking out between them. Things are being thrown at him. He's getting the poor guy is passed out drunk, probably because he has to deal with her, and she's videoing him drunk, putting it on her social media, saying, look at this guy. Look who he really is. This is Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp had to go to the hospital because his finger was half hanging off because of something that was thrown at him. And they get that woman, that lady Amber Heard, up on the stand, and that was exactly her excuse, is that she felt she had to defend herself against him. And it's really weird, and it's heartbreaking, but narcissists do that anyways, no matter if it's a guy or if it's a girl. They lash out. Again, we're dealing with the personality disorder that even an argument can trigger their ego to put them in fight or flight response. And so they lash out, either whether it's man or woman, they lash out into hysterics. Crazy. Things fly, people get hurt, and they don't care. Then they lie about it. I didn't.
Yeah, talking about it, I had a sister-in-law do a police welfare check on me.
Oh, wow.
Well, because we would come to Arizona whenever she wanted us to, and we changed our numbers because we got tired of her crap.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So what's going on with you?
Well, I'm at the part of my healing journey where I'm really more focused upon the authentic living.
Okay.
And I got to say, it's really working wonders, big time, because it just helps you discern, certain individuals at any given time, what they're really about.
Right.
And you kind of just learn, you kind of teach yourself how to just kind of look behind the curtain, behind the curtain of their charms, their I guess our virtue signaling or something. You kind of learn to see through that, you kind of look more at their actions, and you're just like, okay, I don't quite trust this person. So nice. Thank you for playing.
Yeah.
So authentic living, I would say, it really does wonders in learning discernment and protecting oneself from narcissists.
It does. But it's also very difficult to do. It's very difficult.
Oh.
We tend to, but that's the aim. And so I appreciate your call. I appreciate you being on that journey of authentic living, because in all honesty, authentic living will save you from narcissistic abuse. It will.
Amen.
Narcissistic abuse is the result of being with people you have no business being with, doing things you have no business doing, going places you have no business going, even if it's family members and, whoever. But we find ourselves having a very difficult time. We fall into hanging out, going places, doing things we shouldn't be doing, hanging with people we shouldn't sometimes, and talking with people and engaging for too long with people, which kind of takes us out of our authentic living. Because if we're living authentically, we won't be going there, So it's very difficult, very difficult. We need to become better at that.
Yeah, if any person on this earth, whether it be anyone, even a family member, even if it's your mom or dad, if they act like they really don't care at all about you, they really don't. And
no.
That is the damn truth.
Yeah, right. They don't. It's not about you when you're with them. It's about them. And and if you're not making them feel good, then they'll punish you for it.
Well, that's pretty much all I got to share tonight, but I figured I'd call in before, the close of the night. I appreciate your time there, Kevin.
You're welcome. Thank you for calling in. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, Royal Lee.
Bye. Right on. Well, listen, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and I appreciate the phone calls. Keep them coming. We're going to be here every Monday night. I'm also going to be working on doing some new things with the Royal We Live Chat channel. I'll probably be popping on and off live throughout the days this week, but I want to find good reason. I want to figure out some good live things that I could do. So if you have any ideas, you can email them to me, jointheroyalwe@gmail.com. Be here next Monday night. We'll be here next Monday night. So join me then. Saturday morning will be Royal We Fellowship. And don't forget that tomorrow will be a video uploaded at 1 o'clock between 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. So around noon. It's going to be a video on the ungratefulness. And so watch out for that. And we'll be back. Thank you all for being here. And have a great week, everybody. A great night. I'll see you next week. All right. Bye, everybody.